So just to talk about the support from your local authority heritage team, and I suppose start by saying who might be on your team. I think, as Christy mentioned, every local authority now has a heritage officer and a biodiversity officer. So they would be the main players in your heritage team. The Heritage Officer programme commenced in 1999, and it's run in partnership with the local authority and the Heritage Council. The Biodiversity Officer programme, a similar model, but much more recent, I think 2023 that commenced. So you may have a bigger team in your local authority. There may be an archivist, if you're lucky, or there may be one coming on stream in the near future. There may be a community archaeologist, and Christy just spoke about that role. And there may be an architectural conservation officer. So I suppose the person you want to contact really depends on the project or the event that you have in mind. Obviously, if you're thinking of a nature walk or something like that, you probably want to reach out to the biodiversity officer. But if you're not sure, and because we're talking about Heritage Week, I would say the obvious first point of contact should be your heritage officer, and they can point you in the right direction from there. So what we do, and it does vary from local authority to local authority, because different priorities in different areas would be reflected, I suppose, first of all in the makeup of the heritage team, and then in the focus of the work. So essentially, heritage officers and biodiversity officers are focusing on the preparation of county heritage plans and their implementation, or in the biodiversity officer's case, the biodiversity action plans and implementation of those plans. We will be providing advice and information for local authority staff on projects within the local authority. There's community engagement is a big part of the role, heritage appraisal, research and data collection. So a lot of the projects we do would be about researching the heritage of the county, collecting data about the heritage. I know Jonathan mentioned earlier the local place names being an example, and there are variations of projects like that underway in different local areas. A lot of those projects would be supported by the Heritage Council, and as such, there's a requirement, I suppose you could say, to showcase those projects during Heritage Week. So the focus of the County Heritage Plan within your local area should be reflected to a certain extent by the programme of events and the theme of events that take place. Public relations and public consultation are other parts of the role of the heritage team. And then, of course, they'd be involved in preparing strategies, implementing policies and projects. The programmes that could be run by the heritage officers, and I suppose to mention these because again it may be reflected in Heritage Week scheduling, or it may be reflected in how the heritage officer can help you with projects that you may have in mind or events that you may have in mind. I mentioned already the county heritage plans, the Community Monuments Fund that Christy mentioned, the Irish Walled Towns Network. That's a countrywide network of walled towns. Not every county has a walled town, but I think there's something like 42 across the country. And I suppose I mention that because a lot of the walled towns would run Heritage Week events, or Heritage Week might be a time they target in their calendar. Of course, we're involved in Heritage Week. Creative Ireland is another programme which involves heritage, arts and libraries across local authorities, and there's funding through Creative Ireland which can sometimes be directed towards Heritage Week. The Built Heritage Investment Scheme, the Historic Structures Fund, may be looked after by the architectural conservation officers, and in cases where those posts aren't in a local authority, it may fall to the heritage officer. The Commemorations Initiative, some of you may be familiar with the Decade of Centenaries, which closed, I think, in 2023. But coming from that, the Commemorations Initiative is a funding stream to local authorities to commemorate locally significant events. So you can see that might be something that could link to Heritage Week, or it might be a source of funding, or it might help in terms of scheduling. So Heritage Week, I suppose it's a chance for maybe something hands-on, or it's an opportunity to go to a place that you can't normally visit. I've shown up here in the slide, to my right, it's in Athlone, and it's a walk along the town wall. Essentially, this photograph was taken in somebody's back garden. So it's not a site that's accessible during the year, but with owner agreement, we've been able, for the last number of years, to run a Heritage Week event where we can guide them around the town wall and the standing sections, much of which would be in private ownership. So I suppose that's one thing Heritage Week can do that's a bit different from what might happen otherwise during the year. And similarly, it might be a site that is open, but that doesn't have a tour guide or someone to guide you, and that might be an opportunity to have either somebody with a specialist interest or local knowledge to talk about their place. So this is the important bit, I suppose, the supports that are available for Heritage Week. So as I mentioned, every local authority is different, so it's important to check in with your Heritage Officer or your Biodiversity Officer. If you don't know your Heritage Officer or your Biodiversity Officer, all their contact details are on the Heritage Council website, so that's a good place to start. You'll get their email, their phone number, and just reach out. And I would say, don't be afraid to contact your Heritage Officer, and early is good. Get your ideas early, get the conversation going. If you just have a rough idea, but you don't really have a solid plan, that's great. Just get in touch and we can talk it through with you. We're delighted to give advice, to help with planning, events, scheduling events over the 9 days of Heritage Week. And I suppose that's one point just to mention that scheduling, it's a good point to contact your Heritage Officer because they may be aware of other groups around the county that are doing things during the week. There may be conflicts that you want to try and avoid certain dates. You don't want to maybe be in competition with an event around the corner. You want to try and schedule at different times. On the flip side of that, there could be complementary scheduling. I spoke about Athlone previously, and we ran that walk around the town wall on a Wednesday, and Wednesday was typically the day that Athlone Castle has free entrance for visitors. So it's a good complementary programme. We had a meeting point at the castle. So I suppose that's one thing just to bear in mind. If you're kind of in your own group and you're thinking, oh, we'll do something, but what will we do, when will we do it? Just pick up the phone and talk to your Heritage Officer or your Biodiversity Officer. Funding, there may be funding available through the Heritage Office in your local authority. It does vary. Unfortunately, in Westmeath we don't have a dedicated funding stream for Heritage Week, but there are other mechanisms and ways of funding that we can assist you during the week. And then of course the distribution of merchandise, and I'll come back to that. So yeah, funding, as I said, there could be Heritage Week grant schemes in your local authority area, or there could be funding available through Creative Ireland. Now I know a lot of the community calls under the Creative Ireland programme will have closed for the year, but there may be kind of flexibility there in terms of what you're doing with your grant when you schedule the event, and maybe Heritage Week is a good opportunity. I think Martha earlier mentioned that they received a community grant scheme for their project. Your community section may have a grant scheme that you can tap into, so that's another thing to inquire about. So again, if you're not sure, pick up the phone and the Heritage Officer should be able to guide you through the local authority funding streams that are available in your area. So media promotion, and we've touched on this a bit earlier. Some Heritage Offices do produce a county guide. This is our guide from last year. We do have a county guide in Westmeath, and I know several other counties do, and I think some counties have recently taken up the opportunity to prepare a county event guide. Of course, all the detail is on the website, and I suppose the website is the most up-to-date, so the print guides would always carry the caveat to check the details on the Heritage Week website. And I think that comes back a bit to what Ronan was saying earlier, the Heritage Week portal has the opportunity now for editing. So if your details of your event change, if you have to change the time or the date, that can be fed into the portal and updated. Whereas if it's in print, that's tricky. So just to bear that in mind, the print guides may go to print at different stages in different local authority areas. I would give a rough guideline of sort of the end of June to be aiming towards having your event registered on the portal so that it can be included in the print guide if there is one. If there isn't a county event guide in your local authority area, there may be newspaper inserts. Some of the local authority heritage teams are working towards those. Might be like a pull-out supplement or a centre spread in the local newspaper. If there isn't a paid campaign in the local newspaper, there will certainly be press releases. And that's where it's good to be in contact with your heritage officer as well. If they're planning a press release, they might want to just touch on some of the events that are happening. So it's always good to make them aware of an event that you are planning. Or it might be a radio piece. I know that in the past I've been contacted by radio stations, be it local or regional radio, and they always want to kind of, what's your recommendation? They kind of want not just a general speak about Heritage Week, but they want a few kind of highlights or hero events. So if you think your event could be that event, make sure your heritage officer knows about it. And of course, if you want to send your own press release into the local press, that's another thing you can do. And Sabrina spoke very well earlier on things to keep in mind for those press releases. Social media, not all of the heritage offices will have social media platforms, but if they don't have their own dedicated platform, they'll be in contact with the council social media. So there's ways there they can help to promote your event. So it's always good if you have a social media account of your own to send the link to the heritage officer, ask them to share it, or to tag the heritage office or the council in your events to see if they'll share. So merchandise, Ronan mentioned this earlier, and there's a suite of merchandise and there's a kind of a quota that's sent to each local authority heritage officer. In many cases that might be enough, might be sufficient for the county. In other cases there could be a big event in the county that's going to need extra merchandise. So if you are that event and you want extra merchandise, get in touch with the heritage officer and get in touch early because they may need to order additional merchandise. All the merchandise for each county will be delivered to the heritage officer and then they will get it out to the groups in the county. And again, to bear in mind, the branding has remained the same for several years. So I suppose that's a sustainable point. You can really reuse any bunting or flags, t-shirts, viz vests that you may have had from last year. Do reuse them where you can. Your heritage officer may have some from previous years. And at the end of Heritage Week, if you feel that's it, I'm not going to be doing anything next year, you can return the merchandise to the heritage officer for reuse. Now hopefully that won't be the case and you'll keep it and maybe reuse it again next year for whatever event you run. So I suppose just for my local focus in Westmeath, what I would be doing for Heritage Week where I can is assisting groups to plan events. We do have a county brochure, so we'll be compiling and I'd be saying the end of June as a guideline date to get your events registered. Those Heritage Week guides, I should have said, will be available in local libraries, in the council offices and at heritage venues. And in fact, those are probably locations where heritage events will take place as well. So I think I mentioned local radio, social media campaigns, merchandise. And so the awards, I know both Ronan and Christy mentioned the awards. And just to say, after your event, do bear in mind that you can nominate yourself, or if you've been at another event that you really enjoyed, consider nominating it for an award. There are a whole suite of categories under which awards are made. Here's the Heritage Hero from last year, James Scully, who's from Offaly. And this is one of the categories that Ronan would have mentioned earlier, climate and sustainability. And I suppose those are things we should really all be thinking about when we're planning our events is climate and sustainability, how we can work towards being positive actions for climate and sustainability. Maybe you want to be located near a bus stop, or maybe there's a local link that could bring people to your event. Just those things to bear in mind for that. And the Heritage Week Awards are really the Heritage Council's way of thanking people for all the input and programming for Heritage Week, because we know so much work goes into it, and a lot of it really is on a voluntary basis. So it's a very positive way that the Heritage Council just want to kind of showcase and champion some of those great people who put the work in. To mention the County Award, there is an award, a County Award for every I'll say that again. There's an award for every county for the best event in that county for Heritage Week. And it's really important that you register your event on the Heritage Week portal, because if it's an event that takes place that's not registered on the portal, it won't be eligible to be considered for the Heritage Week Award. So that's something to bear in mind. And the portal is very user-friendly. It's all kind of self-explanatory as you go. As Ronan mentioned, it is editable. But if you have any problems or any queries, pick up the phone and talk to your Heritage Officer. They'll be quite familiar with the portal, and they'll be able and happy to guide you through on that. So I think that's the main things of what I wanted to say. I've probably flown through that. Oh yeah, I did just want to mention digital projects that Ronan mentioned earlier. These may be things you've already done, but the digital project part of the Heritage Week portal is a great opportunity, platform to showcase these on a national platform. You know, it doesn't have to be a new digital project. It may be something you've already done, but it's just getting the message out on that. So that's most of what I want to say. So best of luck with your planning.